Round 7 of the Formula One World Championship was in the picturesque setting of Monaco. Championship race hotting up with Michael Schumacher having won at Nürburgring in the previous Grand Prix, but the McLarens were not out of contention. This, the most prestigious race of them all, 78 laps around the streets of the Principality. And as always, royalty in attendance at the Monaco Grand Prix. Prince Rainier to present the trophy at the end of the race. Michael Schumacher on pole position, 25th pole of his career, taking first place by 0.271 of a second from the rest of the field. This was the starting grid. Michael Schumacher, 4 times a winner at Monaco and the championship leader on pole. The surprise alongside him, Jarno Trulli for Jordan. Maybe their season was turning around at this point. On row 2, David Coulthard, the lead driver for McLaren, second here in 1996, his only finish in 5 starts. Heinz-Harald Frentzen alongside him. Mika Hakkinen with his worst qualifying of the season so far, and alongside him was Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari. Jean Alesi, best qualifying of the season so far for Prost, second here, way back in 1990. Giancarlo Fisichella for Benetton, and Ralf Schumacher yet to score a point at Monaco for Williams, there on row 5, alongside Eddie Irvine, yet to score a point this season for Jaguar. First start aborted when Alexander Wurz in the Benetton stalled on the grid and required attention in the pit lane. Second time of asking, Schumacher away well. Jarno Trulli expertly slotting into second place and blocking out David Coulthard from making a charge up the inside. So 21 cars away from the grid, but at the Grand Hotel hairpin, a problem after a collision between Jenson Button and Pedro de la Rosa. De la Rosa and Button trotting back round by the harbour, and Pedro Diniz, Ricardo Zonta and Nick Heidfeld also having to jog back to the pits. So Button started from the pit lane. Pedro de la Rosa wasn't able to start at all. Second time of asking, Michael Schumacher away well. Trulli again slotting into second place ahead of David Coulthard. Expert work by the Jordan driver. All the cars through safely. First corner at Saint-Devote. Michael Schumacher, with a rocket-like first lap, opened up a major gap between himself and the rest of the field. Schumacher leading by 2.35 seconds from Trulli after the first 2 miles of the race. 5 seconds covering the top 6. So even this early in the race, it was a question of who could catch Michael Schumacher. He set the fastest lap of 1:25.192 as early as lap 3. David Coulthard found himself hampered by Trulli in front of him. Jenson Button, an early pits caller and an early retirement. Williams man seeing the end of his first Grand Prix at Monte Carlo. Alexander Wurz had an unhappy time. His race ended up in the barriers at Saint-Devote. Marc Genet for Minardi finished in Casino Square, and his teammate followed him soon afterwards. Gaston Mazzacane, another man who hit trouble just after Saint-Devote. That Armco barrier seeing an awful lot of the action in the 2000 Monaco Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher opened up a considerable gap over Jarno Trulli, edging towards half a minute. Fisichella put Barrichello under attack at the chicane. Barrichello managed to hang on from the Benetton man. Coulthard was safe from Frentzen, but Frentzen was now struggling with Hakkinen close on his tail. Jean Alesi went out, so too did Pedro Diniz. The field really thinning out, but it was still Schumacher who proceeded untroubled in first place. Hakkinen started to go slowly. His McLaren losing power, and Barrichello and Fisichella both swept past him. Hakkinen made it into the pits for attention from McLaren, overseen by Ron Dennis. With 42 laps left, Hakkinen still had a chance to get back into the race. Jarno Trulli didn't. He lost power. Coulthard took over second place. Eddie Irvine moved up the order for Jaguar. Hakkinen emerged from the pits. Ralf Schumacher swept past him on the way through, but then lost control at Saint-Devote and again that Armco barrier came into play. Truly into the pits and into retirement. Disappointment for him after showing up so well in the early stages. David Coulthard set the fastest lap. 34 to go, and he was trying to close on Schumacher. Great performance by the Scot, whose ambition has always been to win this race. Michael Schumacher's lead extended to 33.5 seconds. Coulthard safe from Frentzen, and Schumacher had enough time in hand to be called into the pits for his stop and to be out again without losing the lead. Schumacher came in at the end of lap 49. Even with over half a minute in hand, this still had to be a good stop by Ferrari. And it was 7.7 seconds stationary. Schumacher stayed in first place. It seemed certain that Schumacher was going to push on and win the Monaco Grand Prix for a 5th time. Coulthard still needed a pit stop. The difference between them came down to 10 seconds. Zonta crashed out again at Sainte-Devote. Surveyed what might have been. Into the pits, Eddie Irvine. Now running in 7th place. Fisichella, pits caller at Benetton. And he was able to come in and out without losing 5th. Ferrari ready for Barrichello. Jordan ready for Frentzen. These two, 3rd and 4th at the end of lap 53. Straight battle between the pit crews. Ferrari was slick, but so too were Jordan. Frentzen stayed 3rd, but Michael Schumacher was in trouble. The front right off the ground, a problem at the rear of the car, and he had 2 miles to limp round to get to the pits for attention. In the meantime, Coulthard took over the lead on lap 56, came into the pits and was able to retain first place. Michael Schumacher made it back to Ferrari pits, but already it looked as though he was liable to finish way out of the points. And indeed, that was confirmed. Michael Schumacher, having led for 55 laps, was going no further. But Mika Häkkinen was still fighting. He'd climbed 7 places to 7th, setting the fastest lap along the way. Frentzen crashed out from 2nd place, again at Sainte-Devote, which left Coulthard free to canter home and record his first win at Monaco and become the first British driver to win in Monte Carlo for 27 years. David Coulthard the winner in a fraction over 1 hour 49, his 2nd win of the season, and the gap on Michael Schumacher in the championship closed to 12 points. Coulthard 15.8 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Giancarlo Fisichella would join them on the podium. The first points for Jaguar scored by Eddie Irvine, Mika Salo in 5th place, and Mika Häkkinen up to 6th by the finish. The not classified drivers, Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher, who was in trouble with his injured leg, and also John Alesi, a man who was going so well for Prost until he disappeared down an escape road. Pedro de la Rosa didn't even manage to start. So it was congratulations, David Coulthard, the winner in Monte Carlo. Giancarlo Fisichella congratulated him. Coulthard delighted, as much with the win as the gap between him and Schumacher coming down to 12 points. Mika Häkkinen on 29, Rubens Barrichello on 22. The only drivers past 20 points in this season's championship so far after 7 races. For David Coulthard, an appointment with royalty. The Constructors' Championship, the gap between Ferrari and McLaren now down to 5 points. Williams and Benetton, the only other teams in double figures. So David Coulthard, the winner, and this a victory achieved even though he was still receiving treatment for those injured ribs. The devastating plane crash before the Spanish Grand Prix. This is the one he wanted to win.
I've always said there's a few big Grand Prix for me personally that I'd like to win, and that's Spa, because of it's my favourite track. The British Grand Prix, of course, because it's my home Grand Prix. The Italian Grand Prix, because there's nothing quite like an Italian crowd for Formula 1. And Monaco, because it's technically one of the most challenging and difficult tracks for any driver.
Rubens Barrichello second, equaling his career best finish, but what about that start?
Well, actually, the start wasn't too bad. I was just blocked with people in front. I had to brake, and you know, Ralph made a really good start from the outside, so I had to back off. So I lost time with that, and unfortunately, that was the story.
For Giancarlo Fisichella, his second podium of the year after his second in Brazil.
I was not optimistic, obviously, but now I am very pleased about the result. The target was to score some point. Obviously, my dream was to get on the podium, and now I am third. It's fantastic.
David Coulthard generously shared his victory champagne with anyone who'd come within range. The team's prepared to move back across the Atlantic for the next Grand Prix at Canada.